Hi friends, today I'm going to read to you Anne's lesson in energy. Chapter 1, Learning about Potential and Kinetic Energy. It was late in the afternoon when the harvester ants made their final raid on the human campground. They carried seeds and sweet crumbs back to the nest. It was the harvester's ants' job to make sure all the ants in the colony had plenty to eat. The ants were in a rush to finish that day's work because tomorrow was a sweet sap celebration. The sap harvest was a good one this year, and all the ants were eager to celebrate. There would be sweet nectar for all to drink. Anne was in the front of the line of the marching ants. She carried an enormous cookie crumb. It was 2 times her size, and after a while the crumb seemed heavier and heavier. Anne wasn't sure she could carry the heavy crumb any farther. Anne was a part of a group of young harvester ants. She was the youngest and the smallest of the harvesters, but she was determined to keep up with the rest. As the line of ants marched, Anne tried to keep her mind off the heavy load she held overhead. The line of ants moved at a steady pace, past the rocks, under the picnic table, and past the bushes. All her life, Anne had watched her older sisters, brothers, and cousins march with ease. They had more experience marching and carrying seeds and food crumbs. Today was Anne's turn to show that she could carry a load home, too. Anne's brothers, Norman and Gus, marched right behind her. Behind Norman and Gus was Anne's older sister, Martha, and behind Martha came most of Anne's cousins. Anne admired Martha and wished she could be more like her. Martha was smart. Martha was always reading, learning, and observing everything around her. Anne now secretly wished she could have chosen a smaller crumb to carry. When she was selecting her crumb, Gus had teased her about choosing a tiny crumb. She wanted to show him how strong she was, that she could carry a crumb even bigger than he is. Anne could hear the ants marching behind her, getting closer and closer. The footsteps grew louder. Anne was sure that the other harvesters were going to march right over the top of her. Gradually, Anne's march turned into a run. She started running down the hill and had trouble controlling her speed. Anne felt like the heavy cookie crumb was pulling her down the hill. Her feet could not keep up, and before she knew it, she was on the ground, and her cookie crumb went tumbling down the hill. The tidy line of harvester ants piled in a heap, with Anne on the very bottom. The ants' seeds and crumbs were scattered along the path ahead of them. "What happened?" asked Gus as he pulled himself from the pile of ants. "Where's Anne?" asked Norman. "I'm here," replied Anne. Anne struggled to her feet, brushed herself off, and faced her brothers. "I couldn't march another step. The hill was too steep," explained Anne. "My crumb was too heavy and I was too tired." "Next time, pick a smaller crumb," snapped Gus. "I told you you are too small." "Come on," said Martha. "Let's just pick up other crumbs and seeds and keep going. We'll be late for dinner." "The crumbs are scattered over here," pointed Norman. "They landed farther down the path from where we crashed." "How did they get over there?" asked Gus. "How did the crumbs and seeds keep going and traveling farther than we did?" "They kept on moving when we let go of them," explained Martha. "We probably gave them a little push, too, as we went crashing down. The potential energy of the crumbs above our heads was transformed into kinetic energy." "There she goes again," complained Gus, "using those big science words." "I don't get it," said Anne. She was puzzled and did not understand how crumbs they carried above their heads could have energy. "Think about what happens when you throw a stone," explained Martha. "When you hold a stone above your head, before you let go, the stone has potential energy. When you release the stone, it will move in the direction it was pushed and the speed you threw it until a force, like force of gravity, pulls it to ground. Our collision on the hill released the crumbs from our grasp. Potential energy was transformed into the energy of motion, kinetic energy." "We threw our crumbs down the path?" asked Gus. "A crumb at rest above our heads has a certain amount of potential energy. As we fell forward and let go, we pushed the crumb and it traveled through the air. The potential energy transformed into kinetic energy, or the energy associated with motion. The pull of gravity pulled the crumbs to earth, and they now have less potential energy. Energy transformations take place all the time." "I need an energy transformation," thought Anne. Martha continued to explain the way things move and the force of gravity to Anne and Gus as they gathered their seeds and crumbs and formed a tidy line of harvester ants once again. This time, Norman took the front of the line with Anne's huge crumb, while Anne marched behind him with a smaller seed. Martha explained how objects move and how energy transfers from place to place when the speed and direction of objects change. Anne listened carefully, hoping the lesson would take her mind off how tired she felt. A scientific way to describe the motion of an object is the change of an object's position over a period of time, continued Martha. Motion occurs when a force, such as a push or a pull, starts an object moving. There is kinetic energy in all moving things. When we carry our seeds and our crumbs to the nest, we're changing the position of the seeds from the ground and pushing them into motion. Our push provides the force needed to put the seeds into motion. Then we simply carry the seeds along the path. The seeds and crumbs have kinetic energy. They are in motion. And they have potential energy due to their position above the ground. When we fell, the seeds and crumbs continued their forward motion through the air until the force of gravity changed their direction and pulled them to the ground. Gravity is a force that pulls objects toward Earth, concluded Martha. Anne marched silently for a while in a line of ants with her seed. Gus was curious about how things move and different forces that changed the motion of objects. He began to listen to Martha's explanations, too. Why did my crumb get heavier and heavier? Anne asked, breaking the silence. The crumb did not actually get heavier, answered Martha. It simply began to seem heavier because your legs became tired. You use your front legs to hold the cookie crumb above your head, while gravity continues to pull it toward Earth. Your legs weakened and could not hold it above Earth, resisting the force of gravity. Oh, said Anne quietly. So, pondered Gus, gravity is always pulling objects toward Earth. It never goes away? That's right. Here on Earth, gravity is always with us, replied Martha. Anne marched in silence for several minutes, trying to remember all she had learned about the motion and energy until once again she began to feel tired. I will not stop, she whispered to herself. I will not stop. Thank you, friends, for listening.